2 years ago, Mr. Speaker, CSIS indicated in a report that a member of Parliament and his family were threatened by a Beijing agent because of a vote in the House of Commons. The Prime Minister says that he didn't know, despite the fact that the former head of CSIS said that the Prime Minister's advisor was informed, and even the Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister said that nothing is ever hidden from the Prime Minister. So how is it possible that the Prime Minister did not know that this was going on? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, as the Leader of the Opposition knows full well, the government takes all threats to members of Parliament very seriously, especially from foreign agents. And as soon as we were informed of the issue with the member, we said that we would offer a briefing to him. He accepted it. And this is not the first briefing that the member has received. And we're going to continue to work to protect everyone who works in this chamber, to protect our democratic institutions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Yes, but it's difficult to imagine what information would have been important enough to give to the Prime Minister if the information on the threat against the member and his family were not important enough to give to the Prime Minister. It's impossible to believe that the Prime Minister would not have received such information. So either he did not know and he's incompetent, or he knew and he's dishonest, which is true. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the member for Wellington Halton Hills received a briefing from CSIS yesterday. That's not the first time that he has received such a briefing, and that includes a number of examples of how the government is taking concrete action to fight foreign interference. It is on this side of the House that we are protecting the members of this House, and we're going to continue to do so because our members work hard. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Minister, not for his incompetent minister.
Okay. I just want to remind all the members in the House that when they're asking questions or answering them, to try to be respectful to each other. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, please continue.
The question was for the Prime Minister, and he should have the courage to stand up and answer it. The former head of CSIS indicates that a briefing note with explosive revelations about a threat against the family of a member of Parliament would have been brought to the Prime Minister's top advisors, and his top advisor says everything is brought to him. It is impossible to believe that he was not made aware of these threats 2 years ago when they were documented by his own intelligence services. How does the Prime Minister expect us to believe such a ridiculous claim?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, does the member opposite really think that by exaggerating rhetoric and lobbying attacks at the government that he's doing any service to the member for Halton Hills? Of course the members of this government care for the safety and security of the member for Halton Hills and his family. That's why we provided him a briefing yesterday. It wasn't the first briefing that he received, and Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to do the work to protect the members that work in the space and our democratic institutions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
If intelligence services would not tell the Prime Minister about this, what would they tell him about? It is hard to imagine something more grave to the security of our democracy than members of Parliament having their families threatened because of how they voted on the floor of the House of Commons. Now, if the intelligence agency is not telling the Prime Minister these things, it's because he is not competent enough to ask for them. So there are two options. Option one, either he didn't know and he's incompetent, or he did know and he's a dishonest. Which is it?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we put confidence in our intelligence agencies to take the actions that are necessary when threats are posed against members in this chamber. As you heard The member for Wellington Halton Hills was briefed yesterday. He has been briefed on a number of occasions, and it is this government, Mr. Speaker, that will continue to ensure that parliamentarians are getting timely and concrete briefings. We have issued fresh instructions to CSIS on this point so that we can protect the people and the families that work in this space, so we can protect our democratic institutions.
The Leader of the Opposition.
They're not protecting anybody but themselves, Mr. Speaker. The same agent for Beijing that carried out the threats against the family of a member of Parliament is able to do so because he has diplomatic immunity from Canadian laws. If any other Canadian had done this, they'd be charged and in jail, but because the Prime Minister has given diplomatic immunity and credentials to this agent, he's able to act with impunity right here on Canadian soil. And even if you believe the Prime Minister's far-fetched claim that he didn't know about this until Monday, since Monday, he has not kicked out that agent. Why?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid the Conservative leader is inventing the laws around diplomatic immunities. More importantly, it is this government that has introduced new laws to provide CSIS with the powers that are necessary to protect parliamentarians, to protect Canadians from foreign interference. It is this government that has raised the bar in transparency by creating NCCOP and NCIRA. And Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work with all members of Parliament so that we can ensure that they are able to represent their constituencies in a way that is safe and secure from foreign interference.